A beloved German Shepherd gives birth to 5 healthy-looking babies. But when the vet examines them, he freezes, because these aren't just puppies. One of them is different. Shockingly different. How did it end up in her litter? And what secrets could this tiny, unexpected arrival uncover about the family and their past? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. And if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe. The autumn breeze carried the sweet scent of fallen leaves across Lauren Torres' back porch as she settled into her favorite wicker chair. Steam rose from her chamomile tea, swirling in the crisp afternoon air. Her German Shepherd, Bella, trotted back and forth across the yard, her tail wagging as she checked her usual patrol spots. Lauren wrapped her hands around the warm mug and smiled at Bella's dedication. Even in retirement, the former police dog kept to her routines. A sudden rustling sound from the far edge of the property caught her attention. Bella's ears perked up too, but she seemed unconcerned. "Did you hear that, girl?" Lauren set down her tea and stood up. The noise came again, this time accompanied by what sounded like a weak cry. Lauren walked across her yard, dried leaves crunching beneath her boots. The sound led her to where her property met the new housing development next door. Construction equipment sat silent on the weekend, but the earth was torn up, exposing tree roots and disrupted soil. Her heart sank when she spotted the collapsed fox den. "Oh no," she whispered, crouching down to peer inside. 2 tiny eyes gleamed in the darkness, followed by a pitiful whimper. A fox cub, no bigger than her hand, huddled alone in the ruined den. "You poor thing," Lauren murmured. She looked around for signs of the mother fox but saw nothing. After waiting several minutes, she made a decision. "I can't leave you here." Back at the house, Lauren lined a cardboard box with soft towels and placed it in her laundry room. She gently settled the trembling cub inside, its red fur dirty and matted. "Stay there, little one. I'll call wildlife services first thing tomorrow." She turned to leave, but found Bella blocking the doorway, head tilted with curiosity. "No, Bella, out!" Lauren shooed her away, worried about the former K9's predatory instincts. "That's not for you." Bella whined, but backed away, and Lauren closed the laundry room door. The day's excitement had worn her out, and after checking one last time on the quiet cub, she headed to bed. But Bella had other plans. In the middle of the night, she nosed open the laundry room door. Lauren had forgotten to latch it properly. With the gentleness of a mother, Bella lifted the fox cub from its box. The tiny creature didn't struggle or cry out as she carried it to her bed in the corner of the living room. Bella settled into her plush bed, creating a warm nest with her body. She tucked the orphaned cub against her belly, where it snuggled into her fur. The former police dog's maternal instincts took over, and she began to groom the little fox as if it were one of her own puppies. Lauren slept soundly upstairs, unaware of what was happening below. Her last thoughts before drifting off were of calling wildlife services in the morning to help the cub she assumed was still safely tucked away in its box in the laundry room. Lauren jolted awake to the sound of Bella's insistent whining from downstairs. Her heart raced as she threw off her covers. Bella was due to deliver her puppies any day now. "I'm coming, girl," she called out, hurrying down the stairs in her pajamas. The whining grew louder as she approached the living room. "Are those puppies coming soon, girl?" Lauren asked, noticing how Bella kept lying down and getting back up. By late afternoon, it was clear the puppies were on their way. The fox cub seemed to sense something was happening and stayed quietly in the corner, hidden and forgotten by Lauren, watching with curious eyes. Lauren gathered more towels and her whelping kit, keeping a close eye on Bella's progress. Bella finally settled into her whelping bed, her sides heaving with heavy pants. She looked at Lauren with trust in her eyes as the first signs of labor began, while the fox cub remained perfectly still in its corner, as if understanding the importance of this moment. The evening stretched on as Lauren sat beside Bella, offering gentle words of encouragement. Bella's labor intensified, her breathing coming in short pants as she prepared to deliver her first puppy. "You're doing great, girl," Lauren whispered, stroking Bella's head. At 9:30, the first puppy arrived. Lauren quickly helped clear its airways and smiled as Bella's maternal instincts took over. The German Shepherd immediately began cleaning her newborn, her tongue gentle but thorough. 3 more puppies followed within the hour, each one strong and healthy. Lauren's heart swelled with pride as she watched Bella tend to each new arrival with the same devoted care, cleaning them and guiding them to nurse. As midnight approached, Lauren was exhausted from assisting Bella throughout her delivery. Her eyes were hazy from sleep deprivation, and after making sure everything was settled, Lauren prepared for bed. She made one final check on the new family, pausing in the doorway to watch Bella nursing all 5 of her babies. The proud mother looked up at Lauren with peaceful eyes, clearly satisfied with her growing family. In her tired state, she completely forgot that Bella had only given birth 4 times. She completely missed the subtle differences in the last puppy's appearance. "We'll get everyone checked out at the vet tomorrow," Lauren said softly, stifling a yawn. "You did amazing, Bella." The morning sun filtered through Lauren's kitchen window as she prepared for the vet visit. Soon after, she heard the sound of tires and looked out the window to see Dr. Carter getting out of his truck, his medical bag in hand. She rushes over to open the door for him and walks him towards where Bella is laying with her litter. The veterinarian methodically checked each puppy, making notes on his clipboard. "These 4 are looking great," he said, smiling, as he finished with the 4th puppy. "Perfect weight, strong vitals." When he picked up the last one, his expression changed. He studied it carefully, checking it from different angles. After a thorough examination, he looked up at Lauren with raised eyebrows. "Lauren, this isn't a puppy," he said gently. "This is a fox cub." Lauren's mouth fell open. "A fox." The memory rushed back. The abandoned den, the tiny shivering cub she'd rescued. In all the excitement of Bella's labor, she'd completely forgotten. "Oh my goodness, I found it by the construction site a few days ago. With everything happening with Bella, I didn't realize." Dr. Carter nodded understandingly. "The cub appears to be in good health, which is remarkable. Bella's care has definitely helped." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "However, fox cubs have different nutritional needs than puppies. While Bella's milk is sustaining it for now, we'll need to make some adjustments." Lauren watched as Bella nuzzled the carrier containing her mixed family. The German Shepherd's protective instinct was obvious as she gently nudged the fox cub closer to its adopted siblings. Sometime later, Lauren sat quietly, processing everything Dr. Carter had told her. Bella lay near her, all 5 babies nestled against her. The fox cub suckled contentedly alongside its adopted brothers and sisters, while Bella watched over them all with equal devotion. Lauren's heart felt heavy as she considered Dr. Carter's suggestion to contact Wildlife Services. She glanced back, watching Bella tenderly clean the fox cub's face. The sight made her question what was truly best for everyone involved. Early the next day, Lauren sat at her kitchen table, turning Dr. Carter's wildlife rehabilitation pamphlet over in her hands. The glossy pages showed pictures of rescued animals and success stories, but her eyes kept drifting to Bella's corner of the kitchen. The German Shepherd lay contentedly with her mixed family, all the puppies and the fox cubs snuggled against her warm belly. When Lauren reached for her coffee mug, her hand passed near the whelping bed. Bella's head snapped up, and a low growl rumbled in her throat. The sound stopped the moment Lauren's hand moved away. "It's okay, girl," Lauren said softly. "I'm not going to take anyone away." She picked up her phone and dialed the number for Wildhaven Wildlife Rescue. Her stomach churned as she waited through 3 rings before someone answered. "This is Sarah at Wildhaven," a warm voice greeted her. Lauren explained her unusual situation, describing how Bella had adopted the orphaned fox cub and was raising it alongside her puppies. She could hear the rescue workers' genuine interest in the unique case. "It's actually not uncommon for mother dogs to adopt orphaned wildlife," Sarah explained. "The cub will eventually need rehabilitation to survive in the wild, but timing is crucial. Separating it too early could be harmful to its development." Lauren's grip tightened on the phone. "How long should we wait?" At this stage, the maternal care and socialization are vital. The cub needs the warmth, feeding, and grooming that Bella provides. I'd recommend waiting until it's a bit older and more independent. The advice both relieved and worried Lauren. She watched as one of the puppies stretched in its sleep, paws batting at the air, while the fox cub snuggled closer to its adopted mother. After ending the call, Lauren pushed the pamphlet aside. She'd give the unusual family more time together, a few weeks at least. The cub was thriving under Bella's care, and Lauren couldn't bring herself to disrupt that bond just yet. Bella's tail thumped gently against the floor as she noticed Lauren watching. The proud mother began nursing her litter, showing no distinction between her puppies and the small fox cub. Lauren rested her chin in her hands, lost in thought as she observed the peaceful scene before her. The sharp rap on Lauren's door early the next morning made her jump, splashing coffee on her sleeve. Bella's ears perked up from her spot in the whelping bed, but she stayed put with her pups. Through the window, Lauren spotted Mr. Whitaker's weathered pickup truck in her driveway. Her stomach tightened as she opened the door to find her neighbor's stern face looking back at her. "Heard you've got yourself a fox in there," he said without greeting, his voice gruff. His arms were crossed over his faded flannel shirt. Lauren's hand gripped the doorframe. "Good morning to you too, Mr. Whitaker. This isn't a social call. That fox will be after my chickens and lambs before you know it. Can't have predators being raised right here in the neighborhood." "The cub is just a baby," Lauren explained, trying to keep her voice calm. "It's being nursed alongside Bella's puppies. It's not hurting anyone." Mr. Whitaker's face reddened. "Not hurting anyone yet. You need to call animal control and have them deal with it properly. I've lost too many animals to foxes over the years to let this slide." "I'm working with a wildlife rescue center," Lauren said. "They're advising me on the best way to handle—" "Either you handle this or I will," he cut in, jabbing a finger in her direction. "I'll report you for harboring dangerous wildlife. You've got until tomorrow to make that call." Lauren felt heat rise in her cheeks. "Mr. Whitaker, I understand your concerns, but I won't be threatened. The cub stays until it's ready for rehabilitation. That's final." She shut the door firmly, her hands shaking as she turned the lock. Through the window, she watched Mr. Whitaker storm back to his truck, gravel spraying as he backed out of her driveway. The confrontation left Lauren rattled. As evening fell, she walked her property line, checking gates and making sure everything was secure. She added extra locks to the garden gate and made sure all the windows were properly latched. Bella seemed to pick up on Lauren's unease. The German Shepherd left her pups only long enough to patrol near the front door, her low growls breaking the night's quiet whenever a branch creaked or a leaf rustled outside. "Good girl," Lauren whispered, patting Bella's head as the dog stood alert by the entrance. The fox cub and puppies slept peacefully in their bed, unaware of the day's tension. Lauren sat in her armchair near the door, finding comfort in Bella's watchful presence, but unable to shake her worry about what Mr. Whitaker might do next. Lauren sat cross-legged on the floor near Bella's whelping bed, watching the puppies with wonder. The afternoon sun streamed through the window, casting warm patches of light across the blankets where the little family nestled together. "Look at you all," she whispered as one puppy stumbled forward, eyes barely open but determined to explore. The fox cub, noticeably smaller than its adoptive siblings, followed close behind on wobbly legs. Its reddish fur stood out against the darker coats of the German Shepherd puppies. Bella lay nearby, her watchful eyes never leaving her babies. She reached out occasionally to guide a wandering pup back with a gentle nudge of her nose. When the fox cub tumbled over its own feet, Bella was quick to scoop it closer with her paw, giving it an encouraging lick. Lauren noticed how the cub's natural instincts showed through in subtle ways. While the puppies crawled straight across the blankets, the little fox would occasionally stop to dig, its tiny paws scratching at the fabric in quick, precise movements. When the washing machine rumbled to life in the next room, the puppies barely stirred, but the cub darted under the nearest piece of furniture, its wild nature showing through. Yet there was something heartwarming about watching it try to fit in. The cub would watch its siblings intently, attempting to copy their movements. Lauren couldn't help but smile when she noticed its small tail twitching side to side, mimicking the puppy's wagging. Bella showed no favoritism, treating the cub exactly like her other babies, cleaning it just as thoroughly and responding to its quiet squeaks with the same maternal attention. "You're quite the special little one," Lauren murmured, feeling her heart squeeze as the cub pressed against its siblings, seeking warmth. She knew she shouldn't get too attached, but it was hard not to feel protective of the tiny creature. The evening brought a call from Dr. Carter, his familiar voice crackling through the speaker. "How's our unusual patient doing?" "Growing stronger every day," Lauren replied, watching the cub nurse alongside the puppies. "It's fascinating to watch it interact with the others." "That's good to hear, Doctor," Carter said, his tone turning more serious. "But remember, as it develops, its care requirements will become more complex. Wild animals have specific needs that differ from domestic pets." Lauren's chest tightened at his words. "I understand. I'll bring it in soon for another checkup." She ended the call feeling conflicted, her protective instincts warring with the knowledge that the cub would eventually need more specialized care. Watching Bella tend to her mixed family with such devotion only made the situation more complicated. The spring morning dawned clear and mild, perfect for some outdoor time. Lauren carefully gathered supplies, blankets, water bowls, and a few toys before setting up a secure pen in her backyard. The grass was soft and fresh, ideal for tiny paws to explore. "Come on, sweet girl," Lauren called to Bella, who watched attentively as Lauren carried the puppies out one by one. The fox cub was last, its small body trembling slightly at all the new sensations. Lauren placed it gently beside its siblings, and Bella immediately moved closer, providing a reassuring presence. The puppies stumbled around on the grass, their legs still wobbly, but growing stronger each day. The fox cub stayed close to Bella at first, pressing against her leg while taking in the unfamiliar surroundings. Its nose twitched constantly, sampling the outdoor scents. Lauren sat nearby, smiling as the cub gradually gained courage. It took a few tentative steps onto the grass, then paused to sniff a dandelion. The spring breeze ruffled its red fur, so different from the darker coats of its adoptive siblings. "Well, well, still playing house with that wild animal, I see." Mr. Whitaker's harsh voice cut through the peaceful scene. He stood at the edge of Lauren's property, his weathered face twisted in a scowl. "You're making a big mistake," he called out, gripping the fence post. "That thing will bring nothing but trouble. Mark my words." Lauren tried to focus on the puppies, ignoring his presence, but Bella was already on alert. The German Shepherd rose to her feet, positioning herself between her litter and the perceived threat. Her usually gentle demeanor shifted as she let out a series of warning barks. "Go home, Mr. Whitaker," Lauren said firmly, though her hands shook slightly. "You're not welcome here." The farmer spat on the ground before turning away. "Don't say I didn't warn you." After he left, Lauren noticed how the fox cub had pressed itself flat against the ground during the confrontation, its wild instincts showing through. The puppies, by contrast, merely seemed curious about their mother's barking. That evening, Lauren sat at her kitchen table, her laptop open to a page about wildlife rehabilitation centers. The sound of quiet squeaks and rustling came from Bella's bed, where the dog lay curled around her unusual family. The fox cub was snuggled between two puppies, its small body rising and falling in peaceful sleep. Lauren scrolled through another website, reading about fox development and rehabilitation protocols. Each article emphasized the importance of proper wildlife care, but none addressed the unique situation she found herself in. She glanced at Bella, who met her gaze with trusting eyes. "What's the right thing to do?" Lauren whispered, watching as Bella gently repositioned the cub with her nose when it squirmed in its sleep. The sight made her heart ache with uncertainty. She turned back to her research, determined to find a solution that would work for everyone, even as the path forward remained unclear. The morning light filtered through Lauren's curtains as she woke to the sound of playful yelps and growls. She smiled, recognizing the familiar chorus of Bella's growing litter. Making her way downstairs, she paused at the entrance to the whelping area, taking in the heartwarming scene before her. The puppies tumbled over each other, their movements more coordinated now as they played and wrestled. Among them, the fox cub darted about with surprising agility, mimicking its adoptive siblings' playful behaviors. When one puppy rolled onto its back, the cub tried to copy the motion, though its smaller size made it more of a quick flip than a roll. Bella lay nearby, her head raised proudly as she watched her unusual family play. She took turns grooming each of them, showing no preference between her biological puppies and the adopted cub. Her tongue smoothed the cub's red fur with the same gentle care she showed the others. Lauren settled into her usual observation spot, paying special attention to the fox cub's behaviors. While it played enthusiastically with the puppies, she noticed new patterns emerging. The cub had started scratching at the corners of the pen, its tiny claws leaving marks on the material. Several times it attempted to climb the sides, showing agility that the puppies couldn't match. When her phone rang, Lauren wasn't surprised to see Dr. Carter's number on the screen. "How's our little fox doing?" he asked after their initial greetings. "Growing stronger every day," Lauren replied, watching as the cub made another attempt to scale the pen's wall. "But I'm noticing changes. It's starting to climb and scratch at things. The puppies don't do that." "That's to be expected, Doctor," Carter said, his tone gentle but serious. "Fox cubs develop different skills than puppies. They're naturally more agile climbers, and soon it'll start teething. That's when you'll really notice the difference in behavior." Lauren sighed, knowing what was coming next. "It'll need specialized care soon," he continued. "The Wildlife Center has experience handling these transitions." That evening, Lauren sat cross-legged beside Bella's bed, watching the peaceful scene before her. The puppies were already asleep, their little bodies rising and falling with each breath. The fox cub was curled up against Bella's belly, its distinctive red fur standing out against the German shepherd's coat. Lauren reached out to stroke the cub's soft fur, her heart heavy with the knowledge that their time together was limited. "You're such a good mom," she whispered to Bella, who thumped her tail softly in response. "Such a good girl, taking care of everyone." Bella nuzzled the cub as it shifted in its sleep, and Lauren felt tears prick at her eyes. She knew they would have to separate soon, but the sight of their bond made the decision feel impossible. Lauren gathered her unusual family into her SUV, carefully placing the carrier with the puppies and fox cub in the back seat, while Bella sat alertly beside them. The morning drive to Dr. Carter's clinic was peaceful, but the calm disappeared as soon as they entered the waiting room. The other pet owners immediately noticed something different about Lauren's litter. A woman with a cat carrier leaned forward, squinting at the small red figure among the German Shepherd puppies. "Is that?" she whispered to her husband, not finishing her sentence. "Look at its tail," a young boy exclaimed, pointing at the carrier. His mother quickly shushed him, but the damage was done. Soon the whole waiting room was filled with hushed conversations and curious glances. Lauren felt her cheeks grow warm as she signed in at the reception desk, trying to ignore the whispers around her. Bella stood protectively near the carrier, her ears perked up at the increased attention. When Dr. Carter called them in, Lauren breathed a sigh of relief. The vet examined each puppy thoroughly, nodding with approval at their development. "They're all growing beautifully," he said, weighing the last puppy before turning his attention to the fox cub. The cub squirmed more than usual during its examination, trying to wriggle free of Dr. Carter's gentle grip. "This little one is healthy too," he noted, "but I'm seeing some behavioral changes we should discuss." He set the cub down on the examination table, where it immediately began pawing at the surface. "Fox cubs at this age start showing more of their natural instincts," Dr. Carter explained. "You might notice increased digging, and their play style becomes different from puppies. They nip harder, and their climbing instincts kick in." Lauren watched as the cub demonstrated his point by attempting to scale the edge of the examination table. Dr. Carter carefully caught it before it could fall. "There's also the matter of escape attempts," he continued, his voice kind but firm. "They're naturally more adventurous than puppies, and their needs become very different as they grow. I really think it's time to contact a wildlife rehabilitation center. They can ensure the cub transitions properly to life in the wild." The drive home felt longer than usual. Lauren's mind raced with thoughts of separation as she glanced in the rearview mirror at Bella, who lay pressed against the carrier, occasionally nudging the cub through the bars. She knew Dr. Carter was right. The cub's increasing restlessness was obvious, and its behavior was already changing. But watching Bella's devotion to her adopted baby made the decision feel impossible. Lauren pulled into her driveway and sat for a moment, hand still on the steering wheel. She would contact the rehabilitation center. She had to, but maybe a few more days wouldn't hurt. Just enough time to prepare herself and Bella for the inevitable goodbye. The morning sun had barely risen when Lauren walked into the living room to check on Bella and her litter. Her heart dropped as she counted the puppies. 1, 2, 3, 4. The fox cub was missing. "Bella, where's the little one?" Lauren's voice trembled as she searched the whelping pen. Bella barked sharply, pacing back and forth between the pen and the back door. Her anxious whines grew louder with each pass. Lauren's hands shook as she checked under furniture and behind curtains. "Please, please be okay," she whispered, her stomach tight with worry. Bella continued barking, scratching at the back door with increasing urgency. Following Bella's lead, Lauren rushed outside. The cool morning air bit at her skin as she scanned the backyard. Bella bounded ahead, leading her to a far corner near the fence. There, partially hidden by a bush, was a freshly dug hole, and tucked inside, the fox cub curled up and shivering. "Oh, thank goodness," Lauren breathed, carefully reaching for the cub. It tried to burrow deeper into the hole, its wild instincts clearly taking over. With gentle hands, she scooped up the tiny creature, noticing how it squirmed and twisted in her grip, so different from the docile behavior it had shown before. Back inside the pen, the cub immediately retreated to a corner, pawing at the blankets as if trying to dig again. Bella hovered nearby, whimpering softly as she watched her adopted baby's distress. The puppies tumbled about, oblivious to their siblings' earlier adventure. But the fox cub remained apart, alert and wary. That evening, Lauren sat cross-legged beside the pen, watching the unusual family. The cub had settled somewhat, but still showed signs of restlessness, pacing the perimeter of the pen and scratching at the corners. She reached in to stroke its russet fur, her heart heavy with the knowledge of what she needed to do. "I'm so sorry, little one," she whispered, scratching behind the cub's ears. "I know you need more than we can give you." Bella pressed against Lauren's side, as if sensing her sadness. Later, after making sure everyone was settled for the night, Lauren opened her laptop. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard as she composed an email to the local wildlife rehabilitation center. She described the situation, the abandoned cub, Bella's adoption, and now the growing signs that the cub needed specialized care. As she typed the final words asking for their advice on transitioning the cub, tears blurred her vision. Lauren's hands trembled as she opened the email from Wildhaven Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. Their response was warm but firm. They could take the fox cub immediately and begin its journey back to the wild. The center's director praised Lauren's dedication in fostering the cub during its crucial early weeks, but emphasized that prolonging the separation would only make things harder for both the cub and Bella. "The sooner we can begin working with the cub, the better its chances of successful rehabilitation," the email read. Lauren's chest tightened as she scrolled through the attached documents describing their facilities and success rates with orphan fox cubs. Throughout the morning, Lauren gathered supplies for the cub's departure. She lined a small carrier with soft blankets that carried Bella's scent, hoping it would provide comfort during the journey. Her movements were mechanical as she printed directions to the center and reviewed their intake procedures. Bella hadn't left the whelping pen all morning. She lay curled around her litter, her dark eyes following Lauren's every move. When Lauren approached with the carrier, Bella's ears flattened against her head, and she pulled the fox cub closer with her paw. The puppies seemed to pick up on the tension in the air. They whimpered and crowded around their fox sibling whenever it retreated to dig at the corner of the pen, a behavior that had become more frequent in recent days. One puppy even tried to pull the cub back by its tail when it attempted to hide behind the water bowl. As evening approached, Lauren sat beside the whelping pen, her heart heavy. Bella rested her head on Lauren's lap, eyes full of trust and confusion. Lauren ran her fingers through Bella's thick fur, trying to find the right words. "You've been such a wonderful mother," she whispered, her voice catching. "To all of them, including our little surprise." Bella's tail thumped softly against the floor. "The cub needs to be with its own kind now, but they'll take good care of it. I promise." Bella whined softly as Lauren reached for the carrier. The fox cub, sensing the change in atmosphere, pressed itself against Bella's side. Lauren's vision blurred with tears as she gently lifted the cub, its tiny body tense in her hands. She placed it in the carrier, the click of the door latch echoing in the quiet room. Bella stood at attention, her ears perked forward, watching the carrier with worried eyes. Her tail had stopped wagging, and a low, confused whimper escaped her throat as she looked between Lauren and the carrier containing her adopted baby. The morning air felt unusually crisp as Lauren loaded the fox cub's carrier into her car. Her movements were slow, each step weighted with the gravity of what she had to do. Behind her, Bella's whines echoed from inside the house, punctuated by the sound of paws scratching at the door. "It's for the best," Lauren whispered, though the words felt hollow in her throat. She adjusted the carrier one last time, making sure it was secure. The cub inside shifted restlessly, letting out tiny squeaks that made Lauren's heart ache. The drive to Wildhaven seemed to stretch forever. Every few minutes, Lauren found herself glancing in the rearview mirror at the carrier, where the cub had curled up in the familiar scented blankets. The GPS announced each turn with mechanical precision. counting down the miles until she would have to say goodbye. At the rehabilitation center, a gentle-faced woman named Sarah greeted them at the entrance. Her green uniform bore the center's logo, a silhouette of various wildlife in a protective circle. "You've done a wonderful thing," Sarah said, leading Lauren inside. "Most cubs don't get such a strong start in life." She showed Lauren around the facility, pointing out the specially designed enclosures where other young foxes were already playing and learning. "We'll start by keeping him in a quieter space," Sarah explained, gesturing to a cozy indoor area. "Then we'll gradually introduce him to other cubs his age. They'll teach each other important fox behaviors, things even the most loving dog mother couldn't show him." Lauren's hands shook as she lifted the carrier one last time. Sarah helped her transfer the cub into its new space, lined with natural materials and hiding spots that appealed to its wild instincts. The cub immediately darted into a small den-like structure, its bright eyes peering out cautiously. "He'll adjust quickly," Sarah assured her, touching Lauren's arm gently. "Young ones usually do." The drive home felt endless. Lauren's car seemed too quiet without the soft sounds of the cub and its carrier. She gripped the steering wheel tightly, fighting back tears as she thought of Bella waiting at home, expecting her to return with her missing baby. When Lauren pulled into her driveway, Bella was already at the door, tail wagging hopefully. As Lauren entered empty-handed, Bella's expression changed. She sniffed around Lauren's legs, then looked up with questioning eyes. Her tail stopped wagging, and she let out a low whine. Lauren sank to the floor beside Bella, wrapping her arms around the dog's neck. The puppies tumbled over, seeking attention, but Bella remained focused on the door, waiting for a return that wouldn't come. "I'm so sorry," Lauren whispered into Bella's fur, her voice breaking. She held her loyal companion close as Bella continued to whine softly, both of them mourning the absence of their little fox cub. The house felt different the next morning. Lauren noticed it as soon as she woke up, a stillness that hadn't been there before. In the whelping area, Bella lay with her puppies, but her eyes kept darting to the corner where the fox cub used to sleep. Every few minutes she would get up and circle the area, sniffing intently, before settling back down with a soft whine. "Oh, Bella," Lauren said softly, watching as the German Shepherd methodically checked each puppy before resuming her search. The remaining puppies squirmed and yipped, demanding their mother's attention. But even as Bella tended to them, her movements seemed distracted. Throughout the morning, Lauren tried to keep herself busy with household chores, but she couldn't ignore Bella's restless behavior. The dog would suddenly stand up, ears perked, at the slightest sound from outside, as if hoping the missing cub might return. Determined to lift both their spirits, Lauren decided to take Bella and the puppies outside. She set up a larger playpen on the grass, filling it with toys and soft blankets. The puppies tumbled out eagerly, their little legs carrying them in wobbly explorations of their expanded world. "Look how strong they're getting," Lauren encouraged Bella, pointing to where two puppies were play-fighting, rolling over each other in the grass. A third chased its own tail, while the fourth pounced on a squeaky toy. Bella watched them attentively, but her tail remained low, and she kept glancing back at the house. During a quiet moment when the puppies were napping, Lauren called the Wildlife Center. Sarah's cheerful voice came through the phone, bringing news that made Lauren's heart lighter. "The little one is doing wonderfully," Sarah reported. "He's already made friends with another cub his age. Though I can tell he misses Bella. He keeps trying to snuggle with our stuffed animal surrogates the way he did with her." That evening, Lauren and Bella sat together on the porch. The setting sun painted the sky in soft oranges and pinks, while the puppies slept soundly inside. Bella's head rested heavily on Lauren's lap, her brown eyes fixed on the tree line. "The cub is happy," Lauren told her, running her fingers through Bella's fur. Sarah says he's learning to be a proper little fox. You gave him such a good start, girl. You were exactly what he needed." Bella's tail thumped once against the porch boards. She shifted closer to Lauren, letting out a deep sigh as the last rays of sunlight faded from the sky. Though sadness still lingered in her eyes, there was also a growing acceptance in the way she settled against Lauren's leg. "You're such a good mom," Lauren whispered, scratching behind Bella's ears. "To all of them." Bella closed her eyes, finally allowing herself to relax as Lauren continued to stroke her fur. The morning sun cast long shadows across Lauren's yard as she watched her puppies play near the porch. A sharp knock at her front gate made her jump. Mr. Whitaker stood there, his weathered face twisted into a scowl. "Where's that fox you've been harboring?" he demanded, not bothering with a greeting. His eyes scanned the yard suspiciously. Lauren took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I took the cub to a wildlife rehabilitation center," she explained, keeping her distance. "It was the right thing to do." Mr. Whitaker's face reddened. "How do I know you're not lying?" "Those vermin have been attacking my chickens for years. Now you're helping them multiply." "The cub needed help," Lauren said firmly. "It was orphaned and—" "Good riddance to bad rubbish," Mr. Whitaker cut her off, taking a step closer to the gate. "Mark my words, any fox I see near my property won't be so lucky. I've got my shotgun ready." Lauren felt her heart race at the threat in his voice. Bella, who had been watching from the porch, suddenly charged forward, her bark echoing across the yard. She positioned herself between Lauren and the gate, her hackles raised as she continued barking at Mr. Whitaker. "Call off your dog," Mr. Whitaker growled, taking a step back. "I think you should leave," Lauren said, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. "Now!" Mr. Whitaker jabbed a finger in her direction. "This isn't over. Those foxes are nothing but trouble, and anyone who helps them is just as bad." After he stormed off, Lauren waited until his truck engine faded before letting out a shaky breath. Bella remained alert, her eyes fixed on where Mr. Whitaker had been standing. That evening, Lauren worked methodically around her property. She installed new solar-powered lights along her fence line and checked every gate latch twice. The hardware store had given her some motion sensors, which she carefully placed at key points around the yard. As darkness fell, Lauren sat on her porch with Bella pressed against her leg. The new lights created a protective glow around her property, but Mr. Whitaker's threat still echoed in her mind. She looked down at Bella, whose eyes constantly scanned the yard, ever vigilant. "We have to protect them," Lauren whispered, patting Bella's head. She thought of the fox cub, safe at the rehabilitation center, and hoped it would stay far from Mr. Whitaker's property when it was eventually released. A week after Mr. Whitaker's threatening visit, Lauren found an unexpected email in her inbox. The Wildlife Center had invited her to come see the fox cub's progress. Her heart leapt at the thought of seeing the little one again. "What do you think, girl?" Lauren asked Bella, who lay nearby watching her puppies play. "Want to see your special baby?" Bella's ears perked up at Lauren's excited tone. After discussing it with the center staff, Lauren got permission to bring Bella along for a brief visit. The next morning, Lauren loaded Bella into the car, leaving the puppies safely with a neighbor. Bella seemed to sense something was different about this trip, staying alert and watchful during the drive. At the Wildlife Center, a kind-faced rehabilitator named Sarah met them at the entrance. "The cub has made wonderful progress," she said, leading them to an outdoor enclosure. "We've paired it with another young fox about the same age." Lauren gasped softly when she saw the cub. It looked stronger, its red fur glossier than before. The cub was playing with its new companion, practicing pouncing moves that came naturally to young foxes. When Bella caught sight of the cub, she let out a high-pitched whine and rushed to the fence. Her tail wagged frantically as she pawed at the barrier, trying to get closer. The cub's ears shot up at the familiar sound, and it immediately bounded over to the fence. "Look at that recognition," Sarah said warmly. "The cub clearly remembers Bella." The cub pressed itself against the fence, making soft chirping sounds as Bella sniffed through the wire. Though they couldn't touch, the bond between them was obvious. Bella's whole body wiggled with excitement, while the cub pranced back and forth along the fence line. "We've been teaching it hunting skills," Sarah explained, pointing to various enrichment items in the enclosure. "It's learning to catch insects and small prey. The other fox has been a great influence. They learn faster together." Lauren watched as the cub demonstrated its new skills, pouncing on a rubber toy before returning to greet Bella again. Though smaller than its enclosure mate, the cub moved with confidence and agility that Lauren hadn't seen before. They stayed for almost an hour, watching the cub play and interact with its new friend. Bella remained glued to the fence, her eyes following every movement. Though she occasionally whined, she seemed content just to see her adopted baby thriving. As they prepared to leave, Lauren felt a mixture of sadness and relief wash over her. The cub was exactly where it needed to be, learning to be the wild animal it was meant to become. Bella gave one final soft whine as they turned to go, but she didn't resist when Lauren gently led her away. The kitchen was filled with the aroma of simmering stew when Bella's fierce barking cut through the evening quiet. Lauren dropped her wooden spoon, startled by the sudden intensity of Bella's warning. The German shepherd stood rigid at the back door, her hackles raised and teeth bared. Lauren rushed to the window, her heart pounding. Through the gathering dusk, she spotted a familiar silhouette moving along the tree line at the edge of her property. Mr. Whitaker's tall frame was unmistakable as he prowled near her fence, appearing to search for something. "Stay here, girl," Lauren commanded, though Bella ignored her, following closely as Lauren stepped onto the back porch. "Mr. Whitaker," Lauren called out firmly, "what are you doing on my property?" The old farmer straightened up, caught in the act. "Just checking things," he grumbled, making no move to leave. "Making sure there aren't any more of those vermin around." Lauren descended the porch steps, Bella at her heels. "The fox cub isn't here anymore. I told you it's at a wildlife rehabilitation center. You have no right to be lurking around my property." "Foxes are nothing but trouble," Mr. Whitaker spat. "That center of yours is just going to release it somewhere nearby. And then what? More dead chickens? More killed lambs?" "That's not your concern," Lauren replied, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "The rehabilitators know what they're doing. They'll release it far from any farms." Mr. Whitaker scoffed, kicking at the ground. "We'll see about that. I've been dealing with these pests longer than you've been alive." He turned and shuffled away, but his threatening tone lingered in the air. Lauren watched him disappear into the growing darkness, her mind already racing with plans. She'd need better security cameras, maybe motion sensor lights, and she'd have to document every incident with Mr. Whitaker from now on. Bella remained tense, her low growl rumbling in her chest as she stared at the spot where Mr. Whitaker had been. Lauren sat on the porch steps, pulling out her phone to look up the number for the local wildlife authorities. This wasn't just about the fox cub anymore. Mr. Whitaker's behavior was becoming increasingly concerning. As she dialed the number, Lauren patted Bella's head, trying to calm both the dog and herself. The whole situation felt wrong, and she couldn't shake the feeling that Mr. Whitaker might take matters into his own hands if someone didn't stop him. Lauren sat at her kitchen table, scrolling through photos on her camera. Each picture showed one of Bella's puppies in an adorable pose, sleeping, playing, or snuggling with their siblings. She carefully selected the best ones, making sure to capture their unique personalities before uploading them to the adoption website. "These little ones need perfect homes," she murmured to Bella, who lay nearby watching her puppies tumble around the living room floor. The German Shepherd's eyes never left her babies as they played, her maternal instincts still strong even as they grew more independent. As Lauren wrote detailed descriptions for each puppy, her phone buzzed with an email notification from the Wildlife Center. Opening it eagerly, she found new photos of the fox cub. It looked healthy and confident, playing with another young fox in their enclosure. The sight brought tears to her eyes, but they were happy ones this time. The next few days brought a steady stream of potential adopters. Lauren interviewed each one carefully, asking detailed questions about their experience with dogs, their living situation, and their expectations. Bella watched these interactions closely, sometimes pulling her puppies closer when she sensed Lauren's uncertainty about a visitor. "It's okay, girl," Lauren would reassure her. "We'll only choose the very best families for them." During one visit, a young couple connected immediately with the smallest male puppy. They sat patiently on the floor, letting him approach them in his own time. Lauren watched as the puppy crawled into the woman's lap, tail wagging furiously. Even Bella seemed to relax around them. The next day, a retired teacher fell in love with one of the female puppies. She brought photos of her fenced yard and spoke knowledgeably about German Shepherds. The puppy followed her around the house, already forming a bond. When the time came for the first two puppies to leave, Lauren felt her heart squeeze. She had prepared folders with vet records, feeding schedules, and training tips, but nothing could prepare her for the emotion of watching them go. Bella pressed against her leg, whining softly as her puppies were carefully placed in their new owners' cars. Lauren stood in her driveway, waving goodbye as the cars pulled away. The house would be quieter now, with only two puppies remaining. She wiped tears from her eyes as Bella nuzzled her hand, seeking comfort. "They're going to have wonderful lives," Lauren whispered, kneeling to hug Bella. "Just like your fox baby is having at the Wildlife Center. Sometimes letting go is the best way to show love." Lauren stepped onto her back porch early Monday morning, coffee mug in hand, and froze. Across her usually pristine yard, garbage was strewn everywhere. Paper, plastic bags, and food scraps scattered like confetti after a parade. Bella stood at the fence line, barking with fierce intensity, her fur bristling. "What in the world?" Lauren set down her mug and walked into the yard, carefully picking her way through the mess. The trash hadn't been there the night before, when she'd done her final check of the property. Someone must have thrown it over her fence during the night. Her stomach tightened as she thought of Mr. Whitaker. This had his fingerprints all over it, his way of retaliating after she'd reported him to the wildlife authorities. After an hour of cleaning up the mess, Lauren called the local police department. Officer Martinez listened patiently as she detailed the ongoing situation with her neighbor, his threats about the fox cub, his trespassing, and now this latest incident. "I understand your concern, Ms. Torres," Officer Martinez said, "but without direct evidence that Mr. Whitaker did this, we can only give him a warning. Has anyone else witnessed his behavior?" Lauren shook her head, then remembered she was on the phone. "No," she replied. "He's careful about that." After hanging up, Lauren watched Bella pace the yard's perimeter, nose to the ground, still agitated from the morning's discovery. The two remaining puppies stayed close to the house, picking up on their mother's anxiety. Lauren felt her own unease growing. If Mr. Whitaker was willing to vandalize her property, what might he do next? Throughout the day, Bella refused to leave Lauren's side. When Lauren worked in her home office, Bella lay across the doorway. When Lauren made lunch, Bella watched from the kitchen entrance. Even bathroom breaks weren't private anymore. Bella would wait right outside, as if afraid Lauren might disappear. That evening, Lauren researched security cameras online, looking for ones with night vision and motion detection. She added several to her cart, planning to install them along the property line where her yard met Mr. Whitaker's farm. She also ordered extra lighting for the backyard and new locks for the gates. As she finalized her purchase, Lauren heard Bella growling at something outside. She rushed to the window, but saw only darkness beyond her porch lights. Bella pressed against her leg, still growling softly. "We'll be ready for him next time," Lauren assured her, patting her head. She sat down at her kitchen table and began sketching a plan of her property, marking the best spots for cameras and lights. If Mr. Whitaker wanted to play games, she'd make sure she had evidence of every move he made. Lauren's phone lit up with a message from the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. Her heart skipped a beat as she read that the fox cub was nearly ready for release. The center invited her to visit one last time before they began the final preparations for returning the cub to the wild. When Lauren told Bella they were going to visit the center, the German Shepherd's ears perked up. She jumped into the car eagerly, as if she knew exactly where they were heading. At the center, the rehabilitator Sarah led them to a large outdoor enclosure. Lauren gasped at the transformation. The once tiny cub now moved with grace and confidence among 3 other young foxes. Its red fur gleamed in the sunlight as it practiced pouncing on leaves and digging for hidden treats. "The cub has exceeded all our expectations," Sarah explained, smiling. "Watch how it stalks and hunts. Those are crucial skills for survival in the wild." Bella whined softly, her tail wagging as she pressed against the fence. The fox cub's ears twitched at the familiar sound, and it turned toward them. For a moment, it stood perfectly still, studying them with bright eyes. Then slowly, it approached the fence. "This is remarkable," Sarah whispered. "It usually stays away from humans now." The cub came closer until it was just inches from the fence. It stretched its nose toward Bella, who whined again, her tail wagging faster. For a brief moment, the cub pressed its nose against the fence, where Bella's muzzle touched the other side. Lauren felt tears welling up in her eyes as she watched this tender reunion between the unlikely mother and her adopted baby. The moment passed quickly. Another young fox called out, and the cub turned away, bounding back to join its new family in a game of chase. Lauren watched as it disappeared into a patch of tall grass, moving with the natural stealth of a wild fox. "We'll release them all together," Sarah explained. "They've formed strong bonds which will help them survive in the wild. Your cub has found its true nature here, but it's clear it hasn't forgotten the love it received from you and Bella." On the drive home, Lauren kept glancing at Bella in the rearview mirror. The dog seemed peaceful, as if she understood that her adopted baby had grown up and found its place in the world. Lauren's heart felt both heavy and light. Heavy with the knowledge that she would never see the cub again, but light with the certainty that she had done the right thing. As they drove past green fields and forests, Lauren thought about that chaotic night when Bella had given birth, and how finding that tiny fox cub had changed everything. She hadn't known then what challenges lay ahead, but now she understood that sometimes the most unexpected situations led to the most meaningful experiences. The night was unusually still when Bella's sharp barking cut through the darkness. Lauren jerked awake in her armchair, where she dozed off while reading. Bella's bark wasn't her usual alert. It was urgent, aggressive, filled with warning. Lauren rushed to grab her flashlight and hurried outside. The beam cut through the darkness, sweeping across her yard until it reached the fence line. Her heart sank when she saw her security camera lying on the ground, its mount broken. Next to it, clear boot prints marked the soft earth, leading away from her property. "Bella, come!" Lauren called, her voice shaking. The German Shepherd bounded to her side, but kept growling, her eyes fixed on the fence line. Back inside, Lauren's hands trembled as she accessed the footage from her other cameras. The timestamp showed activity from just 30 minutes earlier. Her breath caught as she watched Mr. Whitaker skulking along her fence, rocks in hand. He threw them at her camera while muttering angrily, "Think you're so smart protecting those vermin?" His voice crackled through the speaker. "Where'd you hide that fox? Probably got more of them around here somewhere." Lauren's fear turned to anger as she watched him vandalize her property. She'd had enough of his harassment. With determined fingers, she dialed the police and explained the situation. This time, she had proof. "I have clear video footage of him trespassing and damaging my property," she told the dispatcher, "and this isn't the first incident." Within an hour, 2 officers arrived. They reviewed the footage, taking notes and photographing the footprints and damaged camera. One officer recognized Mr. Whitaker immediately. "We've had complaints about him before," the officer said, shaking his head. "But this is the first time we've had solid evidence. We'll pay him a visit tonight." The next morning, Lauren learned that Mr. Whitaker had received both a formal warning and a trespassing notice. If he came near her property again, he would face immediate arrest. Feeling more secure, but still cautious, Lauren installed additional cameras and motion sensor lights around her property. She reinforced the gates with new locks and posted no trespassing signs along the fence line. Bella seemed to sense the shift in atmosphere, staying closer to Lauren than ever. She patrolled the yard with renewed vigilance, especially when Lauren took the remaining puppies outside for their daily exercise. Her protective instincts, honed from her police K-9 days, were in full force as she guarded her family. As Lauren watched Bella standing alert near the fence, she felt grateful for her loyal companion. Together, they had faced challenges they never expected, from raising a fox cub to dealing with an angry neighbor, and had emerged stronger for it. The spring morning dawned crisp and clear as Lauren pulled into the Wildlife Center's parking lot. Bella sat eagerly in the passenger seat, her ears perked forward as if she knew this was a special day. The rehabilitators had called yesterday with the news. The fox cub was ready for release. "Good morning, Lauren," Sarah, the lead rehabilitator, greeted them. "And hello to you too, Bella." She knelt to scratch behind Bella's ears. "Are you both ready for the big day?" Lauren nodded, her throat tight with emotion. Sarah led them to her truck, explaining how they'd chosen the perfect release site in a protected forest area. "There's plenty of natural prey, water sources, and it's far from any farms or settlements," Sarah explained as they drove. "We've been teaching the foxes to hunt live prey, and your little one has shown exceptional skills." The drive took them deep into the forest, where other rehabilitators waited with transport carriers. Lauren could hear the excited yips of the foxes inside. Her heart jumped when she spotted the familiar russet fur of their former foster through the carrier's ventilation holes. "We'll open the carriers one at a time," Sarah explained, positioning them facing the forest. "This gives each fox space to adjust and choose their direction." Bella sat obediently at Lauren's side, her tail swaying gently as she watched the proceedings. When it was their fox's turn, Sarah carefully opened the carrier door. The cub, now nearly grown, emerged cautiously, its sleek coat gleaming in the dappled sunlight. It paused, nose twitching as it sampled the forest air. Then, unexpectedly, it turned and looked directly at Bella. The German Shepherd whined softly, her tail wagging faster. For a moment, mother and adopted child shared one final connection. Then the fox darted forward, its confidence growing with each bound. At the forest's edge, it paused briefly, glancing back one last time. Bella gave a soft woof, as if saying goodbye, and the fox disappeared into the undergrowth. Lauren wiped tears from her eyes as she watched the space where the fox had vanished. Bella pressed against her leg, offering comfort as she always did. Sarah placed a gentle hand on Lauren's shoulder. "You did a wonderful thing," she said softly. "That fox has the best possible chance at a wildlife because of you and Bella." On the drive home, Lauren kept glancing at Bella, who seemed content despite the bittersweet farewell. The German Shepherd had shown such incredible maternal instincts, accepting and nurturing a wild animal as one of her own. Their journey together had been unexpected, but beautiful, full of challenges, but also deep joy. The house felt different now, quieter, but still full of life. Lauren watched from her kitchen window as Bella stretched out in the morning sun, her remaining puppy tumbling playfully around her. The other puppies had found loving homes, leaving only the smallest one, the runt of the litter who had stolen Lauren's heart. "You're definitely staying with us," Lauren said softly, stepping onto the back porch. Bella's tail thumped against the wooden deck as Lauren approached. The tiny puppy wobbled over, still mastering the art of walking straight. Lauren spent her mornings establishing new routines. She'd set up a training schedule, teaching the basics to both mother and pup. The little one proved to be a quick learner, especially with Bella demonstrating each command first. "Let's call you Scout," Lauren decided one morning, watching the puppy's curious exploration of the yard. The name seemed to fit perfectly. The small German Shepherd was always investigating everything, just like its mother. Bella's maternal instinct shone through in every interaction with Scout. When the puppy strayed too far, Bella would gently herd it back. During training sessions, she'd nudge Scout into the proper sitting position or demonstrate the down command with patient persistence. It reminded Lauren of how tenderly Bella had cared for the fox cub. The Wildlife Center sent regular updates about the released foxes. Their latest email included a photo of a young fox, likely their former foster, caught on a trail camera. The fox appeared healthy and confident, perfectly adapted to its natural habitat. Lauren shared the photo with Bella, who tilted her head at the image, ears perked with interest. As spring settled into early summer, Lauren found herself taking longer walks with her two companions. Scout bounded ahead on wobbly legs while Bella kept a watchful eye, always ready to guide her puppy back to the path. The three of them made their way across Lauren's property, passing the spot where she'd first found the fox cub so many months ago. The morning air was sweet with wildflowers, and birdsong filled the trees above them. Lauren felt a deep sense of contentment watching Bella guide Scout around a fallen log. The chaos and worry of the past months had given way to something beautiful, a reminder that love could bridge even the most unexpected gaps. Scout yipped excitedly at a butterfly, and Bella moved closer to investigate, displaying the same protective instincts that had made her such an extraordinary mother to both her puppies and the fox cub. Lauren smiled, grateful for the lessons in resilience and unconditional love that Bella had taught her through it all. The autumn morning painted Lauren's property in shades of gold and crimson. A gentle breeze rustled through the remaining leaves, carrying the crisp scent of the changing season. Lauren was sipping her morning coffee when she noticed Bella's unusual behavior. The German Shepherd stood perfectly still at the edge of the property, her ears forward and alert, staring intently into the woods. Scout, now several months old and nearly as tall as Bella's shoulder, played nearby, oblivious to his mother's focused attention. Lauren set down her coffee cup and walked over to Bella, curious about what had caught her interest. As Lauren approached, she saw it. A fox standing in the shadows of the tree line. Its russet coat gleamed in the early morning light, and its stance showed confidence and strength. Lauren's heart skipped a beat as she recognized the distinctive markings. It was their fox, now fully grown and wild, yet somehow drawn back to this place. Bella didn't bark or growl. She stood calmly, her tail relaxed, as she gazed at her former foster child. The fox met Bella's gaze, its amber eyes showing no fear. For a long moment, they remained like that, mother and adopted child sharing a silent recognition across the divide between wild and tame. Scout bounded over, finally noticing something was happening. Before the puppy could make a sound, the fox turned gracefully and melted back into the forest, leaving only swaying branches to mark its passage. Bella watched the spot where it had stood, her posture peaceful and content, as if this brief encounter had brought her closure. Lauren knelt beside Bella and wrapped her arms around the dog's neck. "You did good, girl," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You gave that little one exactly what it needed." They walked back to the house together, Scout racing ahead and circling back to them in playful loops. Lauren felt a familiar ache in her chest, the bittersweet mix of joy and sadness that came with letting go. The fox's visit seemed like a gift, a confirmation that their unconventional family had made the right choices. On the porch, Lauren settled into her favorite chair with Bella lying at her feet. Scout curled up against his mother's side, yawning widely. Together, they watched the woods where the fox had appeared, each lost in their own thoughts. The morning sun climbed higher, warming the air and catching the dew that still clung to the grass. Lauren reached down to scratch behind Bella's ears, grateful for this remarkable dog who had taught her so much about love's ability to transcend boundaries. If you enjoyed the story of Bella and her incredible litter, I handpicked this next story that you will enjoy. Oh, please don't miss this one. Click here to watch it.